feels like someone or something is pulling the strings.
Right.
And I like to tell this story because I've done a lot of I've researched a good bit of mythology, whether it be Nordic mythology, Greek mythology, and stuff like that.
Right.
I like the way it reads. All right, I like the way it reads. I think it speaks more to people than a lot of things. Honestly, I think the big religions could take some pointers from these ancient religions and just sex it up a bit and bring some people back into the fold. But
Yeah.
um, but what I will say is in the Nordic religion, all right, in Norse mythology, they have the Norns, all right, and these Norns are weaving. Okay, they're the weavers of fate. They also water the tree of life, Yggdrasil,
Right.
right? So they're weaving fate. So every human being has a strand, all right. So they're weaving a
Right.
strand.
Yep.
They're weaving a
Yep.
strand in the whole. You know, think about
Right. The whole
a giant weaving
tapestry
machine.
of existence. Yep.
Now, as you make decisions in your life, your weave changes.
Right.
All right. So as you make a decision, your weave changes. Now, your destination, whether it's already set or not, it's up to you to get to that destination, and your decisions will either bring you to that destination or a
Right.
new destination. So
Right.
the most that I can comprehend and I can give into fate, because I really don't believe in fate. I don't believe that I don't
Right.
believe that we have a final destination set for us. All right. I don't think that my
Right.
story is written yet. I'm writing it as I go. I believe that the universe will present you with choices. And when you make these choices, that will determine what comes next in your life. What choice you make from the opportunities that are presented to you, you know, let's say you're given you hit that fork in the road and you go left. Well, now that you've gone left, that's going to decide what the next fork looks like, because now you're on a different path. You know, just like when we all set off and we joined the military, right? We had no idea what was going to happen to us.
Right.
We're going to go to war. We're going to have this job. We're going to do this, whatever. Shut up, Majestic. Shut up. We're not talking about that right now. You know what I'm talking about, but we're not talking about that right now. Behave. So, you know, you're presented with these choices in life, right? And so as you make a choice, your strand, your weird changes. All right. And so as you go through life and you're making these choices, you run into situations where things just influence you. All right. They influence you and you can't explain how they influence you. You're talking about God, you know, people that you didn't even really know. They just like, man, I felt like I had to say this to you. That could be the universe saying like, hey man, you know, we see that you're teetering on this decision that you're about to make. All right. You know, something tragic has just happened in your life and you could be teetering on, I want to continue to become a better person, or I want to go back down that road that, you know, not being as good of a person. Right. Because believe me, I've had some recent things in my life that have made me question, you know, like I've worked really hard on my, you know, not just like my finances and my physical self, but like my mental and my emotional self. And things, they test you. Right. And they're like, well, okay, so I ran into a hard spot. All right. Now I could easily slip into being the person that I used to be because it's easier. I just get drunk every night. I can go out and, you know, find random women and stuff like that. Or the person that I've become, the person that I worked hard to be, you know, it's not even a test. It's just a bump in the road, man. Like, you know, it's not a test. You know, and I think that's another thing. We need to stop looking at everything as a test. You know, it's not a test.
It's life.
Things just happen.
It's the path of life. You know, it's funny you say that because it's funny thing about it is that the Bible even says that is, you know, God orders our steps, right? But the thing about it is it talks about in Ecclesiastes, there's a time for everything. There's a time to kill, there's a time to live, there's a time to party, there's a time to go. I mean, you know, there's a very practical nature. Right. There's a very practical nature of the Bible. Right. And so in life, it talks about like we're walking this thing day by day. We have like Jesus even said, don't worry about tomorrow. Tomorrow gonna have its own problems. You ain't worried about yesterday. Right. You live today. You know what I'm saying? I think that it's important for us to not get so, because that's what can mess us up too, is because we can get so caught up in trying to like, oh my gosh, I got to do the right thing, or I'm going to miss this and I'm going to miss that. The reality is, the truth is that seek ye first the kingdom. When you seek God, then what happens? Because you said something interesting. You said the universe, you know, will provide you choices, right? Will present these choices and situations in your way, right?
Yes.
I think one of the things we have to consider is the fact that and it's a question for you from the universe perspective, right? How does the universe, if the universe in itself is is a neutral space, right? I mean, the universe, would we say, like, how would the universe that does not necessarily have a personality or have any semblance of identity present choices to people? You know what I mean? So that would be a question, because it's like, how do you say I have choices? The universe presents me choices, or the universe will say, hey, you're teetering on this, or hey, that doesn't seem like a good thing to do. But if the universe is just the universe and it doesn't have any particular identity or personality or nature in itself, then how would you explain the universe providing choices and thoughts and decisions and things when it itself does not make decisions of its own, for like, you know?
And that's exactly why I don't believe in atheism, and that is why I'm
Mhm.
not an atheist. But at the same token, I don't put my stock in one belief system or the other, because I think if we really go back to the very earliest belief systems, obviously, yes, they're tied to the sun and the moon and the tides and the
Right.
earth and everything like that. And then as society has progressed, we have scientifically proven that, like, this is why the tides happen, this is why the sun rises, this is,
Mhm.
this and this and that, and we can go on forever about it.
Right.
I'm not an atheist because, one, I have run into situations that I don't have any explanation for.
Right.
I've had feelings that I don't have any explanation for.
Right.
And the third and the biggest reason is how audacious is it of me to believe that, one, I am correct in my one belief system, and I have all the answers, and I know that I'm living my life correctly, and I know that I'm doing the will of whatever God or goddesses or things I believe in. So that's why it's not that I find solace in universalism. It's not that I find comfort in universalism. I just find that being a universalist and understanding the differences between, the older pagan religions, the newer monotheistic religions, and all of the things that they have to say are really all interconnected. And it's really all one big message. And I truly, truly believe that if you live a good life, that you don't go out of your way to harm other people, that you do go out of your way to help people when the opportunity presents itself, and you don't broadcast it, then I think that we're all going to be okay. And that if we die, we can all line up and we can figure out who was correct. And according to South Park, it was the Mormons. All right. But
Right. Right. No, I mean, hey,
but
yeah.
I'm super interested, because I had a conversation. It was 2 nights ago. I had a conversation with an old family friend, and she, she's very Christian, and she asked me, and I don't know why, maybe I broadcast this shit about myself, but, like, people ask me, why don't you believe, and why, where, but what if you die and you're wrong? And I'm like, what if you die and you're wrong? You are so convinced that you're correct that, like, there's no option for you to be wrong. I'm okay with being wrong. I understand that I could be wrong, but you are so convinced that you are correct that you leave no doubt, and you are willing to condemn me as another human being that isn't hurting you. You're condemning me because I don't have the same belief system as you. And that is my biggest problem with modern religion. And I'm not just going to say Christians, just modern religions in general.
In general, no, I agree. I think that, no, I agree with you. I think that, the reality is that, that's where faith comes in, right? That's where faith comes in. That's where faith is the gap. And that's exactly where that's the hinge pin is. That's where faith comes in, because you base it off of evidence, you base it off of history, you could base it off, experience, evidence, history, experience, all of the above. They all are pieces that validate or confirm your faith, right? And so you make a decision to say, you know what, I choose to believe this because of X, Y, and Z, right? I choose to believe this because of everything that I've seen to this point has pointed me in this direction, has led me to this place, right?
Yeah.
I choose to believe that. I choose to believe this because of X, Y, and Z. I think one of the biggest, and there's so many aspects to it, but the question that I would bring back up was, what if all of this is not about right and wrong, but it's about saved and not?
It's about what? Was that last part?
What if it's not about right and wrong? What if it's about saved or not saved?
Okay.
So there's another element to that, right? Because I mean, if you think about it,
So it's
that
interesting you say that, because the
yeah,
Hindus believe that so the Hindus have a very Hinduism is very weird, because it's monotheistic, but they have multiple gods. So
right,
I actually haven't had a conversation
right,
with a real, like, I'd like to eventually, to kind
right,
of get some answers. Actually talk to, like, I don't know what they call them, I don't, priests or whatever they call
right,
them.
right.
But they believe that as long as it doesn't matter what path you're on to salvation, as long as you get saved. So I would say that Hinduism, out of all the modern religions and all the modern belief systems, is the most accepting that, hey man, it doesn't matter how you get saved. It doesn't matter what road you're on, but as long as we all end up at the same destination, more the better. And I
Mm.
really respected that when I was studying Hinduism while I was in school. Just awesome. It's just
Yeah,
awesome. I would,
think, man, yeah, when I did comparative religions, and when I took comparative religions in Bible school, it's so interesting when you really see where people are coming from, right? And then talking to different people. And then when we were out in the Middle East, when I had a privilege of talking to some people, and I had the opportunity as a public affairs, I had the opportunity to talk to a lot of different people. And they gave me their perspectives, from the Muslim perspective and from all these different belief systems. And I think one of the things that I have noticed that I think is the biggest difference between all the different religions and belief systems and concepts and things like that is, and with Hinduism and some of these other more kaleidoscope beliefs, right? Because there's so many different entities that exist within the grand scheme of the belief system, right? But I would say that as a whole, with the major religions, one of the things is always you do all the work to get to God,
yeah.
as opposed to true Christianity, where I've noticed that it is not that. It's God did the work to get to you. And I think where that's where it gets broken because of the interpretation. Like somebody said, in order to interpret good from bad, you need a foundation. Yeah, I think it's we as people. Think about this. This is so funny when you think about it. Everything that we're saying and we've talked about up to this point is very reminiscent of what? The Garden of Eden, knowledge of good, the tree of knowledge of good and evil. It's all the same. Like we are all on the same.
But there was two trees.
The
There's two trees
tree
in
of life,
the garden.
right? The tree of life, and then the tree of knowledge of good and evil. And so when you look at the grand scheme of everything up to this point, every religion, everything, it's man's attempt to discern between what is right and what is wrong, what is
Mm.
good and what is evil. And that has manifested itself in totalitarian governments that have wiped away civilizations. That has manifested itself in crazy. I mean, it has manifested itself in so many different aspects. But it's ultimately man trying to decide and discern between good and evil and right and wrong without the foundation of a focal point or creator,
Yeah.
right? And we're doing it on our own. We're just trying to figure it out. And if you think about it, if you go back into the garden, remember, God did not give them any main instruction except for tend the garden and
Mm-hmm.
name them and chill. Be fruitful and multiply. Live, love, create, build. That was it. Because there was no sense of I'm trying to discern, should I do that? Should I not do that? That didn't exist. It was just we're walking with God. We're living in this. We just do what we do what we were made to do. Be fruitful, build, create, tend the garden. That's it. It's really simple. But we mucked it all up. You know what I'm saying? Because we decided,
But
in
but at
many
the same
aspects.
at the same token, like, if you believe in an omnipresent, omnipotent God, he knew that we were going to muck it up. Like, he knew. He already wrote it. It was already written down that the Garden of Eden was going to go away. We were going to get kicked out, and everything that's happened has already been written. All right, so he knew that in so many thousands of years he would have to send his son to be sacrificed. He knew that everything that's happened has happened. So it really all depends on how
you look at.
I'm trying to frame my words really, really carefully here. It really depends on how we believe, you know, that God has a role in our life. Because if you look at the Gnostics, right? So like
Right.
the Knights Templar, the
Right.
Gnostics,
Right.
they believe that the main God was a mean and
Right.
the Old Testament God, the
Right.
I'm
Right.
gonna punish you for all this shit God, right? They believe that another God popped up that was Jesus, that acted as
Right.
the in between,
Right.
that kind of shielded us
Right.
from
Right.
Dad.
Right.
All right. That's where Gnosticism came from at
Right.
its base. Now, is that everything that happens in Gnosticism? No, I would encourage everybody who's watching to go and read and
Right.
find
About
everything.
Gnosticism. Right. Right.
But dumbing it down, that's how Gnostics believe. How it's just crazy, all the information that's out. When I tell you I have 40 books that I'm
Yeah.
trying to read at one
Yeah.
time, dude.
No, I got you, bro. I got right.
There's so much information out there.
Yeah.
And I wanted to point this book out. This is the next book I'm going to read. It's called Getting Past Your Past. It just has to do with what we were talking about last week. One of the guys that was watching our show was an old company commander of mine, and he is now a licensed trauma counselor. And he recommended this book to me to read about, just trauma and stuff like PTSD and stuff like that. So I'm going to read it. And that's one of the things you're going to see on our YouTube channel. I'm going to give a review of every chapter that I read and just kind of talk about it and stuff like that. And I think I'm going to start doing that in the future when it comes to like, some of the religious texts. I started reading a book called The History of God. It was written by a nun. I don't think it's worth talking about because I feel like she has a very skewed version of how she wants to talk about Christianity. And like me, it's very biased, and I don't like the way she speaks. Not only I don't like the way she speaks about Christianity, I like the way she speaks about other religions as well. I'm gonna finish the book and I'll give a review of the book, but my review so far, I'm about 4 chapters in, and it's not good. It's not a well-written book.
Right.
It doesn't give a lot of facts. I don't like books that jump around a lot. I like good chronological, context and stuff like that. But I think one thing I want to do with our channel is I want to start reading some of the books that we read, and you do the same thing. Like whatever you're reading, man. Let's put it up on the channel. Let's put it out there. Like let's get all these really good books out there. If you want to read a really good book, it's available on Amazon. It's like $15. It's called God Against the Gods. It is the history of polytheism into monotheism. It's one of the best books I've read. It flows. It's a good read. It's like 300 pages. You're going to read it in like 3 or 4 days. It's just written very, very well, and it gives a ton of references. I love when they give references. Tell me how you arrived at your
point
process.
Right.
Tell me how you got there. Give me all the people, give me all the books, give me all the research that you got there. I love that. The more research you have, I probably won't read it all because I have a finite amount of time in every day. But tell me how you got to that point, man, because I'm really interested. I love finding out why people believe what they believe. I like knowing how you arrived at the way you look at a certain situation or a certain belief system or anything like that. That makes me tick, man. That's the shit
bro. This is why we can do this, right? This is why we can do this, because we are like-minded in that regard. You know what I mean? I tell you, I'm reading. I picked up that book, The Rebel by Albert Camus.
No.
Oh man, bro, I just started that. Albert Camus, you familiar with him? He was out there around the same time. I believe he was around the same time as he falls in that same category like your Orwells and your Alan Watts. Like he was one of those modern thinkers, you know what I'm saying? I forget, to be honest with you, I forget what time frame he really had his reign of sort. But he's got some stuff out there. But Aldous Huxley, he was kind of like in that same group, right? He was in that and that stuff. But he's got a book called The Rebel that is interesting. He's diving into like we talked about earlier, how you become a terrorist.
Yes. Yeah.
So it's kind of like that. It talks about the psychological aspects that create a rebel, like rebels of history that have rebelled against whatever they rebelled against, whether it be slavery or governments or whatever the case is. What creates a rebel? Why do they become rebels? And what does it mean to be a rebel? And then the ironic twist is that in many cases, tyrants create rebels. But then once the revolution is over, oftentimes the rebel becomes the tyrant.
That is, yeah, no, it's awesome. Yeah, no,
I was like, oh snap, okay, got that. Ooh, wow.
You either die a hero or live
long enough to see yourself
fight.
Yeah, you die a hero, see yourself, or you either die a hero, live long enough to see yourself become a villain. Absolutely.
I love it.
And so that's great stuff. But anyway, yeah, I got you. I'll show it. Hold on real quick.
Anyway, do any of our viewers have any questions, or they want to throw something out there that we can talk about? We're open to any type of dissertation or point of views. We'll talk about it. We'll dissect it. We can argue it. We can support it. We can do anything that you guys want to. If you didn't get to catch the whole show, we are going to drop it on YouTube in a few days. Check out our last episode that had to do with mental health and the modern era, and then we kind of transitioned into the government and food and stuff like that.
Yeah, for sure. So I think I actually took the book with me and left it in my truck. So, but I do have this one. I don't know if I showed you this one. The Kingdom of the Cults.
Kingdom of the Cults.
Yeah. It's interesting. It dives into, one of the big things it starts off with is how the occult and occultism is so prevalent in today's society in many aspects that people don't even realize. It's not just religious cultism. You know what I mean? And so it's very interesting.
No, it's ideological cultism too. Sorry,
yeah.
I'm fighting this cough.
Or here's the other key word: tribalism. It's this modern day tribalism, man. What? I was just thinking about that this morning, bro, and that's a whole another conversation. But this
we could have a whole goddamn. We gotta talk about tribalism, culturalism, ideologicalism. All of it.
Yeah.
So we definitely need to get together next. We'll figure it out this week.
Yeah.
If you guys don't know, we usually don't plan. We plan the show, but we don't plan the topic till about 24 hours out because we find it to be a lot more real and raw if we don't we don't plan for it and prepare for it, and we have a list of things that we're going to say. No, we want it to be more raw, more real. We want the people. We absolutely want people to join in, send questions out, send thoughts out and stuff like that. We want everybody to be involved.
And always, if you have topics that you want to talk about, like anything, we have a limited perspective just from our lives. So you may have something that we don't know anything about. You know what I'm saying? And so, yeah, I'm definitely ready to move to whatever our next thing is, man. I'm excited. I think we had a pretty good show. Yep. I'll show y'all this.
What you got down there? You got a little dog down there?
Yeah.
That's not a little dog. It's a big old dog.
That's not a little dog. Don't you lick me. This is Rosie, y'all. That's my sister's dog.
All right.
Yeah. Oh, Rosie. But yeah, so she's okay, Rosie. All right. It's enough. Sorry about that. But anyway, yeah, so I think that's our cue.
All right. I think that's the end of the show, yeah.
Yeah, man. But great conversation today, bro. And we look forward to seeing people who've ever joined in, their comments, questions, concerns. If you disagree with anything we've said, please drop it in there.
Absolutely.
If you agree, please drop it in there. If you have another perspective, please drop it in there. And really, to be honest with you, we really just scratched the surface on this thing, man. Everything is, there's so much more. There's so much more.
We'll probably come back to it. Yeah.
Because I think because it definitely ties into the tribalism and culturalism and all that stuff, because that plays a huge role, especially today. So either way, man.
All right, man.
Yeah, man. All right, y'all. We'll catch y'all later. Peace.
Peace.